Sonology for me is the exploration of sound, the idea of sound and how to apply it into different art forms, I guess.
The attitude towards making music is it starts from the sound. So it's appreciating the beauty of sound, it's appreciating the process of synthesizing sound.
People always ask you, what are you studying? What is sonology? And the second question that comes, so are you a DJ or are you a sound engineer? That's what people think when they hear the word music electronica.
Sonology is not about one single thing. I very often refer to the etymology of the word composition. From the Latin word, componere is made out of these two different words, which means put together. Sonology, I think, is characterized by this idea of putting together many different aspects.
The first approach to sound it can be mainly technical, but the goal of everything we do is always musical. That can be approached in many different ways, from live performances to algorithmic composition to using analog synthesizers in a studio and to compose what you can create on a computer.
Often people play with instruments as well, so it's not purely electronic music, and I doubt to put it in a box like that because I think music nowadays is really versatile, so I would say it's just music.
Instrumental music, electronic music, space, if you can use it, and perception.
Before Sonology, I started as a jazz musician, then I started playing like sort of electronic jazz and I moved into more electronic stuff. So I thought that this would be a very interesting place to learn about sound very much in depth, to learn about the qualities of waves, about the physics of waves, about how to create your own DSPs.
Here in Sonology, you can study about circuit bending and building oscillators, and then with different sensors. And that's what I was actually doing. I built my own oscillator with a light-dependent sensor, so it reacts to the light. And then I compose a piece around it. It's like bottom to top approach. So you actually grab the sound material, what you want to do, and from there you get to the composition side.
One of the things that is, I think, very, very encouraging also to study sonology is that the school itself works inside a conservatorium, basically, a big building where you have all kinds of instruments being taught. You have all sorts of activities related to music, which integrates people that come from a background that maybe is not so musical, maybe it's coming from a more technological background. I think the idea of working closely together with musicians, active musicians, performers, dancers even, makes this a very special kind of school.
Nem is igaz, hogy vizet árasz, virágom virág. Nem szent matezőgi, minden madártársad mégis eltartja.
I was doing Bachelor, and which was 4 years, and I like the fact that there's this block of time, let's say, during which you can really go in depth in certain topics. Like for me, for example, studying sound programming was a totally new thing. It's like studying a new instrument. It's not that I will be doing only that later, but by studying that instrument, I get into new ideas also.
The music that is produced in Sonology is very often based on computers and electronic devices, and this implies also an aesthetical dimension. Somehow the tool that we use inspire compositional choices.
When you make music with computers, the level of detail you can have is infinite. You can really treat sound in a way that is not really possible otherwise. I spend a lot of time trimming details, polishing things.
We are in the analog studio, and the idea behind this studio is to learn a certain kind of workflow, more than techniques. I would call it the analog workflow, where you're working with knob, with wires. And actually, Don Buchla, one of the first pioneers of modular synthesizer, mentioned that In his opinion, to use knob and wires to interact with sound, it's the best way to get involved with different aspects of music, with timbre and space, instead of rhythm and pitch.
My research was about electroacoustic improvisation and composition. In particular, was focused on the design of instruments for improvisation and, we might say, real-time composition. One of these instruments is the MELOTRONICA, which is just here. In this case, the melodica was completely hacked and customized with sensors, which are sending data to a computer in which a software unit processes the information in real time. It synthesized well this idea of electroacoustics. So you have an acoustic instrument that is somehow merged with the electronic technology.
My research was about finding an approach to rhythm by using speech, because speech has this sort of inherent rhythmicity to it. There is a flow in speech, especially if it's a good speech. And I thought, what if I will take this flow and apply it to electronics?
C'est que les phénomènes de la durée avec des rythmes sont construits avec des rythmes. Elle pourrait être le principe même de l'évolution créative. L'homme aurait un destin poétique.
The percussion piece was all of the rhythmic material was based on 3 sentences by Martin Luther King. So I took this part of his speech from the I Have a Dream speech, and I analyzed the rhythm of the syllables, so the rhythm of how he said it, and then I let mechanical drums and human percussionists play this rhythm. It's an abstract rhythmic line. It's not something that you can tap, it's not metered, but I think that it has some sort of a flow into it, which people can relate to.
My research project was to make a realization score from Stockhausen's Gesanderjunglinge, which was to me the first masterpiece of electronic music. The usage of this score is basically as an analytical tool. There never was a source that could tell you how this part was made or how this section was thought of. There are many, many aspects of it that were always invisible, hidden.
The title of my thesis was The Study of Gesture for the Purposes of Compositional Strategies, which then culminated in the final performance, which included 2 other performers and developed a lot of interactive sound installation video work as well.
My personal motivation is the space where sounds happen or manifest. And I decided to investigate abandoned places, like urban explorations with sound. And I will present my final work in this water reservoir where we are now. It's a very big concrete construction, and it's circular. And this makes that the reflections goes around and around. So just by walking in space, you experience different phases of the sounds, even if it's a continuous sound.
I did a research on extended duration in music composition. The piece started from being fascinated by this idea of a bowed piano. Over the course of working with the material, suddenly there came an idea to overlap that continuous sounds of the piano, bowed piano and horns with the percussion. So the interest in this music is to investigate basically the richness of the sounds that these instruments carry within themselves. A piano string, it is almost like a universe. So the interest is to create a situation where you can really witness and experience that.
For people coming here, what they will expect is to be completely surprised by all this wealth of knowledge. We're given the tools to explore our own ideas. All the teachers have a very developed expertise on their topic, and so you can really take from all these different things.
I ended up in Sonology trying to find a place that wouldn't give me rules to follow, but would help me to find my own rules to make music.
I think it's a laboratory in a sense, but I think it also gives enough space for projects that are very related to the history of electronic music and electroacoustic music.
I think about Sonology as a place where the tradition of music composition and the future of music composition merge.
When people ask me what's the most important thing that you learned in Sonology, I answer them to listen. Listening is a creative act and can discover music almost anywhere.
There's so many things I have learned and I have changed. I think it really reshaped my complete aesthetics. It really showed me the possibilities of microtime or of things that go beyond the level of notes.
My conception of music totally changed since I'm here. There is a side of music that it is about that. It is about going forward, or not necessarily forward, but going where you haven't been before.